Back to politics now. A lot to talk about this Monday. And for that, we are joined by Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and Stu Rothenberg of Inside Elections. Politics Monday, welcome to both of you. The border story, separating families, parents from children. Amy, first and foremost, this is a human story. It's about human beings and what's happening in people's lives. Right. But let's talk about the political consequences of the administration of President Trump doing this and the Democratic response. Right now, what effect do you see this having?
Judy, I'm glad that you opened it like that because it is actually a political and a human story weaved together, and that's what makes it even more challenging politically for Republicans who are out there. Obviously, they're on the ballot in 2018. The president is not. He made immigration enforcement the centerpiece of his election in 2016. A lot of Republicans did not. And what we're seeing as I'm watching this unfold throughout the day, the number of Republicans in Congress who are coming out and saying, this isn't okay, we have to stop this policy of separating children from their parents continues to grow, especially from members who are in swing districts, who, again, might have a tough re-election in 2018. The head of the National Republican Campaign Committee, Steve Stivers, that tells you something when he comes out and tells, in a tweet, says, I don't like this policy. So it seems to me this is an unsustainable situation that Republicans find themselves in. The president, if he continues to defend this, Republicans legislatively are not going to back him up, and politically they're going to distance themselves from this policy, or at least try to.
How do you see the Republican candidate?
Well, I understand why the White House might feel that it's obligated to push this immigration agenda, that they're playing to the base, that they promised this, this is what they're going to deliver. What I don't understand is how audio and video of children crying, screaming, photographs of mothers who children are being taken away from. I don't understand how that is going to play to the Republicans' benefit. It seems to me just politically like a disaster. I was going to say waiting to happen, but a political disaster and a human disaster, but happening right now. I mean, it puts Republicans in the awful position of having to defend these acts that look unfeeling.
But you do have the base of the Republican Party. I listened to Steve Bannon yesterday on one of the Sunday shows talking about how the president is simply fulfilling what he said he was going to do. He's upholding the law.
Well, it's interesting if you look at the polls that are coming out right now, a majority of Republicans say that they support it, but only like 55% of Republicans. This is not a 90% Republican issue. And I think Stu's exactly right. This idea, I think, that the White House and those around the president have had for a long time is if we make the story about all of these criminal elements at the border, we make it about drugs, we make it about MS-13 gangs, then we win because we make Democrats have to defend the indefensible. But the image of children and the audio of children is going to beat all of those other images 9 times out of 10. And just listening to that audio, to Stu's point earlier in the show, you could see this coming up in every campaign ad that goes out in 2018. It's a situation that I think Republicans are going to have to get themselves in.
Two thoughts. One is the Republicans are still worried about the base. That tells you something because the Democrats are working on swing voters and independents and people will decide some of these elections. And second of all, when you looked at this Quinnipiac poll in terms of separating children and parents, it's not only 66% of all voters say oppose that, but it's 68% of independents, 68% of whites with a college degree. And as Amy points out, 1 in 3 Republicans disagree of what the president and their party are doing.
But Amy, this thinking on the part of the White House that they still need to focus on the base.
Right.
Is that smart? Is that going to take them all the way to victory in November?
Exactly. This is what 2018 is going to show us, Judy. This is a president who has done everything just for the benefit of the base, and it worked for him in 2016. When everybody told him it couldn't because he had to expand the universe, he was leaving out too many swing voters. Now he says, well, it worked for me then, it's going to work in 2018. But when you see where these numbers are, not just on this issue, but Stu and I have been talking about this a lot, just where the swing voters are in this election, white women who have college degree.
In the suburbs.
Just imagine how this issue is going to play with these voters. If you're trying to lose those voters, you couldn't do worse than
Here's
this.
a prediction. Donald Trump will do really well with Trump voters in the midterms, but that's not enough.
Right.
Well, that's my question. Is it enough?
Oh,
in
certainly
enough
not.
districts?
It might be enough to hold the Senate. It might be enough to hold North Dakota and West Virginia
That's the question.
India, but it's not going to be enough to hold the House.
Different story. Supreme Court ruled today, actually didn't rule. They sent it back to the states. Both Wisconsin, Amy, and Maryland had come forward with these cases challenging redistricting, gerrymandering. What does all this mean? What's the effect longer term here?
I think the longer term reality is that the Supreme Court is not really interested, or at least they haven't found the right case to be able to come out and definitively say, this is okay when you're redrawing lines, this is not okay. Here's the standard that the Supreme Court now endorses. Instead, we're going to see states do what they do, legislatures do what they do, which is they're going to draw district lines. They may get sued. It will go to a lower court. A lower court is going to decide, and then the lower court decision is the one in which we move from rather than the Supreme Court. Or, I think more likely, we're going to see these lower court decisions find their way back up to the Supreme Court. We may see North Carolina, for example, come out next year, a debate over the North Carolina lines. So I think it means we're in a constant flux on this, but fundamentally, if you're Democrats, your number one concern right now has to be winning enough legislative and gubernatorial seats so that when the next round of redistricting comes around in 2020, you have the necessary number of members who can draw these lines.
Yeah, my question is, what is the precise political fallout from
Well, I
this?
think Amy and I and others have been assuming that the lines that we have now will be the lines that we have in November. We've been handicapping races based on that, so I think we don't have to change our analysis. So the trajectory of the election isn't changed. If the court had acted and recognized political gerrymandering, that would have caused us to reassess all these lines. But right now, it's the way we've looked at these races yesterday is simply the way we're going to look, at least for the next 6 months and maybe for the next 2.5 years.
So does that benefit Republicans more or Democrats?
Well, if the court had recognized that there was partisan gerrymandering, it would have almost certainly helped the Democrats in states like Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin. So it would have probably helped the Democrats, although it would have helped Republicans in Maryland and Illinois.
So it's kind of a mix.
It depends on which state, right?
Right. And I don't think any of this would have occurred before the 2018 elections because we're so late in the process. So it really would have been looking forward to 2020.
Well, we're always looking ahead to 2018, to 2020, even beyond. Amy Walter, Stu Rothenberg, thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.